Okay guys, now we will move forward from the session 1. So session 1 is the FIDIC definition about the variation. So before we start the variation preparation account and other things, we have to understand some basic ideas about the variation related to some information based on FIDIC. So this is the FIDIC 99 red book for the construction. So at the moment on the construction industry, there's a 3 version available. The first version is the FIDIC 87 1987, that one. The second one is this one, the FIDIC 99 red book, you can see here. The third one is the FIDIC 2017. They launched another new version of the FIDIC. So generally most of the project in the Middle East, in other countries also, they used for the FIDIC 99. So we will also take a look from the FIDIC 9 about the variation. In the FIDIC 9 red book, there's 20 clauses. Most of some interviews also, the interviewer asked some questions like this question. The first one is, do you know about the FIDIC, something like this. And also they will ask how many clauses available in the FIDIC condition of contract red book for the construction. So we have to aware there is 20 clauses available in the FIDIC red book. So you can see here, these are the clauses, the first one, the second one, the third one, the fourth one, like this. So the first one is the general provisions, the employer, the engineer. The clause number 4 is the contractor. So like this, you can see here there is a variation clause on the 13. So we have to remember the variation clause number is 13 in the FIDIC 99 red book. So like this, you can see here there is 20 clauses. So the final clause is the claims and dispute and arbitration. So this one is the final clauses. The same this you can see here there's 18 the clause, that is insurance. So most of the interviewer are asking the questions like insurance also. So now we are going to discuss about the variation under the clause number 13. So I will move to the clause number 13 here. You can see here there is a they make like this numbering. So the clause number 13, the first one is variation and adjustment. So now we are going to detailedly analyze how is the variation is initiated. So what are the main factor for the variation, like this, right? Before I start this session, I have to introduce some 3 terminologies. The first one is the employer, the second one is the engineer, the third one is the contractor. So each and every project, okay, each and every project, there's 3 main key people involved for each and every project. So the first one is the employer. So we have to little bit understand who is 3 person, so how they will impact for the variation, other things. So now you have to understand the employer. This is the very contractual name based on FIDIC red book. So the employer mean he is the owner of the project. He is the owner, okay, owner or investor for the project. The second one is the engineer. The engineer mean normally we say generally in on-site or in other projects, we called as a consultants. Okay, so there's too many consultant involved each and every project, like we can say some supervision consultant, and also the cost consultant, and also the final testing and commissioning, and planning consultant, MEP consultant, designing consultant, like this, okay. And also the third one is the contractor. So he is the builder, he is contract the project, okay. So this engineer is appointed by the client directly, okay. So he is the client representative. He is fully right, he has the fully rights to control the project on behalf of the employer. So we have to understand these 3 terminology first, right? Now I will move to the variation. So just I will read these some points, then we will move forward for the main portion. Okay, so the first one is they said like this: the variation may be initiated by the engineer. So at any time prior to issuing the taking over certificate. So before taking over certificate, the engineer means the consultant can initiate the variation. So this is the FIDIC important point. Okay, right. This is the first scenario. The second scenario is either by an instruction or by a request for the contractor to submit the proposal. Sometimes contractor can identify some variation during the construction. So at that time, the contractor also request to the engineer, the consultant, Mr. Engineer, we find out the way additional works like a variation work. So this is the cost and time impact for this variation. So we have to notify. We can also, the contractor also can notify. So there's a two option, right? You can see here the contractor shall execute and be bound by each variation. Okay, so there's a two main portion. You can see here the contractor shall execute. Okay, the contractor can execute or otherwise bound. So you can see this one, unless the contractor promptly give the notice to the engineer stating that the contractor cannot readily obtain the goods required to the variation. It means the contractor, if any variation initiated by the engineer, the two situation we can consider. If any variation arise from the engineer, the contractor can accept the first scenario. The second scenario is a contractor cannot accept. Because of this reason, the contractor cannot obtain, you can see here, the obtain the required obtain the goods required for the variation. So the contractor cannot obtain the goods or other material to do that variation. So sometimes the contractor write the notice to the engineer, Mr. Engineer, we cannot do this variation due to these reasons, something. So there's a two scenarios: the contractor can accept or contractor can omit the variation. So we have to understand these things very properly. Right, now variation may be included. So what are the main factors to create the variation? So under the FIDIC 99, they said 6 main points for what is the how the variation will create something like this. So the first point is, you can see here, the changes to the quantities. So we have to understand some very important other points. The first one is tender documentation, and the second one is the construction documentation, contract documentation. So there's a two documentation. This one is the pre-contract, this one is for use for the post-contract. So the tender documentation, there's a many documentation available. So one of the documentation is drawings and BOQ. Okay, so same like this, the contract documentation also include the drawings and BOQ. So the changes to the quantities mean the tender documentation includes some for example, for the room there's 4 lights. Okay, the contract documentation drawing include there's 5 lights. Okay, 5 lights. So there is one additional light. So the changes the quantities. So from the IFT issue for tender to IFC issue for construction. So these drawings is we have to compare this drawing. So if we found anything the quantity changes, we can initiate the variation. So the change of the quantity is the one of the main factor. The second one is you can see here, changes to the quality. The second one is the changes to the quality. For example, we can say like this: that in the tender time, in the specification, the tender documentation said we have to use this type of marble or tile for the flooring. So this quality is like, we can say level 2 something, the quality. Okay, but the contract time, the consultant or engineer they initiate the variation. Mr. Contractor, you can't use for this type of marble. You have to use L1 type. So this type is the high quality compared with this one L2. Okay, so you have to use this L1 quality tiles or marble for this flooring. So at that time you can see here the changes of the quality will be changed. So that's why we can initiate the variation also. So this is the second point. The third one is that you can see here the changes of the levels, position and the dimension. So it means we can see for example the tender documentation drawings says the one of the slab total length is like 10 meter something, but the construction drawing they mention like this, they extend a small portion 1 meter something. So you can see here the levels and dimension and positions, everything this from this IFT to IFC changes. So this one is the dimension change, and also the level change mean we can see here, for example, if the contractor built or a 5-story building, so this is the level 1, level 2. So they already mentioned the levels, like level 1 level is plus 7 meters something, but sometimes the IFC issue for construction drawing they mention the level 2 is 7.2 meters something, so the level is up. So there are the changes. Okay, so we have to understand these points. And also you can see here the omission of work, and also they mention the addition of work. There are the two options, right? So the contractor sign the contract before start the project. The contract document clearly mention the scope of works. What are the scope of works to be carry out the contract, something like this. But after the contract sign out, the engineer or the client representative they initiate the notice, Mr. Contractor, you have to omit some of these works, or you have to add some of these works, something like this. They initiate the instruction. So these changes apart from the contract signed scope of work, if they add any omission of work, or if they add any addition of work, these also consider as a variation. So we have to consider these points. And also the final one is the changes to the sequence. So this one is very important, another point. For example, we can say like this, the contractor is built approximate the 10 floor one building. So the contractor they already submit the schedule or plan, so how we build something like this, the order or sequence of the works. So at that time, the initial time, the contractor say we build first these floors, then we have to start our finishes work like this. First we have to complete our ground floor, then we have to complete the first floor, second floor, third floor, like this. So at the time the consultant or the client also they accepted the schedule. Okay, the contractor is fixed the marble from ground floor, first floor, like this. At the time during the project, the mid of the project, the engineer or the client they initiate the notice to the contractor, Mr. Contractor, you have to start the marble work from the 4th floor, something like this. So the contractor can, at the time the contractor sometimes they are not able to or capable to do the 3rd floor. They have some machineries and manpower to do for the ground floor, they as per the already signed plan. So the engineer changed the sequence of the work. So this is also the way we can consider as a variation. So now you can easily understood how the variation will be create something like this. So under the based on the FIDIC 99 red book. So now you understand how the variation is occurred. So this is my main intention before we start our variation account preparation. Something you have to understand the FIDIC clause, and there is what the FIDIC says about the variation, something. So now we detail analyze this. Then now I am going to move to the session 2. It's a little bit different. We have to understand these things also, right? The session 2 is difference between variation and claims. So we have to understand this point. Then we will move to another points.